To navigate modern existence, it is to confront one of its most profoundly challenging trials, the experience of being alone. This isn't merely about the absence of other people. It's about the inescapable, often unsettling presence of oneself. When the ceaseless din of daily life finally subsides, when silence replaces the constant clamor, and when there's no one immediately available to distract, entertain, or validate our existence, something deep and often uncomfortable begins to emerge. It's a subtle unease, a pervasive discomfort, a knowing sense of emptiness that can no longer be conveniently ignored. This particular emptiness is not a recent phenomenon. It has always been there, skillfully disguised beneath the relentless pile of commitments, the hurried rhythm of superficial relationships, and the endless stream of digital notifications that constantly vie for our attention. The profound truth that moments of genuine solitude inevitably reveal is precisely what we spend vast portions of our lives desperately trying to conceal, the often agonizing distance between who we truly are and who we feel we should be. And it is precisely within that unspoken, unexplored space that the deepest anguish resides. It isn't primarily the lack of external company that threatens to undo us. It is more fundamentally the tragic lack of a profound, authentic connection with our own selves. Kierkegaard, one of the most brilliant and unsparing explorers of the human soul, perceived this pervasive anguish not as a flaw or an emotional failing, but as a crucial symptom of an existence that had yet to discover its inherent truth. For him, the deep despair we often feel when we are truly alone is not a mere emotional breakdown, but a profound spiritual alert, an urgent, unmistakable call to authenticity. Loneliness, in this Kierkegaardian sense, becomes a stark and unforgiving mirror where we are utterly compelled to confront the immense freedom of being entirely ourselves and, concurrently, the daunting responsibility that inevitably accompanies such freedom. We instinctively recoil from silence because it mercilessly exposes us. It lays bare precisely how profoundly lost we still are from our own intrinsic being, how far we have drifted from our core essence. Yet, on a radically different, though ultimately complementary, shore of philosophical thought, Arthur Schopenhauer offers a strikingly contrasting perspective on this very human experience. He does not fear solitude. On the contrary, he wholeheartedly celebrates it. For Schopenhauer, the inherent capacity to genuinely tolerate and indeed thrive within moments of profound solitude is not a sign of weakness or social deficiency, but a powerful mark of inner greatness. It is, for him, the unmistakable sign of a mind that possesses sufficient depth and richness within itself that it does not require constant external noise or validation to feel alive and engaged. In his piercing view, solitude serves as the ultimate refuge of elevated spirits, those rare individuals who are not content with the soul-numbing mediocrity of incessant distractions, those who have discovered and diligently cultivated genuine home and an impregnable fortress within themselves. This video is an earnest invitation to courageously traverse the often turbulent waters between these two profound philosophical shores, between the knowing emptiness that loneliness can impose and the profound fullness that true solitude can offer, between the instinctive impulse to flee from oneself and the arduous, yet immensely rewarding, courage required to genuinely inhabit oneself. Because what you feel, this persistent, silent discomfort, this subtle pain that seems so difficult to name, is not a mistake or a flaw in your being. It is profoundly a sign, an urgent, undeniable request for you to halt your relentless running, to cease losing yourself in the endless demands and narratives of others, and to finally, decisively, begin the sacred journey of returning home. To within, here I do not offer cheap consolation or fleeting reassurances. What I offer is uncompromising clarity, a direct, unmasked look at what it truly means to be alone, and how this often feared experience, when approached with understanding and courage, can become the single most liberating and transformative journey of your entire life. If you have made it this far, listening intently to these words. It is because something profound within you is utterly weary of the constant flight, tired of the endless pursuit of external validation. And perhaps, just perhaps, you are finally ready to embrace the unvarnished truth. The emptiness you feel is not merely the void of loneliness. It is, in its deepest essence, a profound longing for yourself. For countless individuals, loneliness is instinctively perceived as an agonizing emotional burden, a heavy weight to be endured or escaped. However, for Søren Kierkegaard, it transcends mere emotional discomfort. It is, in its most profound manifestation, an existential mirror. Loneliness, as he understood it, is the raw, unadulterated experience of being brought face to face with oneself, stripped bare of all excuses, all familiar distractions, and all carefully constructed personas. And this encounter, particularly when we have spent vast portions of our lives entirely committed to the exhausting task of being anything but who we authentically are, can be utterly devastating. According to Kierkegaard, the human being exists in a state of perpetual, often agonizing tension between the real self, our intrinsic, unvarnished essence, and the idealized self, the perfected, socially acceptable image we meticulously craft and desperately strive to embody. Instead of embarking on the arduous but liberating quest for our own unique truth, we instinctively prefer to adapt, to contort ourselves to fit the relentless demands of a world that overwhelmingly values superficial appearances, external status, and constant performance. We painstakingly create an identity, a social mask, purely to survive within the complex social fabric, and then, tragically, we cling to this facade as if it were our fundamental, unchangeable truth. But in the profound, often uncomfortable silence of true loneliness, this meticulously constructed facade invariably begins to crack, to crumble, to reveal its inherent fragility. And when there's no one left to perform for, no audience to impress, all that remains is the piercing discomfort of realizing just how far we have profoundly drifted from our authentic selves. It is at this precise, critical juncture that what Kierkegaard so powerfully termed existential despair arises. This is a profound state of suffering that is not directly caused by external events or circumstances, but rather by the agonizing internal perception of being fundamentally at odds with our own deepest essence. Despair in this context is the inevitable, inescapable result of radical self-denial. It is not a fleeting sadness that comes and goes. It is a silent, gaping abyss, an unbridgeable chasm between who we genuinely are and who we relentlessly pretend to be. Loneliness mercilessly lays bare this abyss because it systematically eliminates the ceaseless external noise and distractions that we have so skillfully used to muffle its terrifying presence. And as paradoxical as it may initially seem, this very despair, this raw, unbearable discomfort, is not an ending. It is profoundly a starting point. Kierkegaard, in his wisdom, perceived it as an urgent, non-negotiable call to profound individual responsibility. Being alone, in this sense, is not an end. It is, unequivocally, a beginning. It is within this uncomfortable, often terrifying void that the true, most essential work can finally commence. The arduous, yet ultimately liberating, work of genuinely becoming oneself. For Kierkegaard, a human being only truly achieves authentic existence when they decisively stop fleeing from themselves and courageously accept the profound weight and the immense freedom of simply being who they fundamentally are. But this transformative process is anything but smooth or effortless. It demands extraordinary courage to courageously dive into the vast, unknown territory that undeniably exists within us. It requires profound humility to honestly admit that at our core, we often do not truly know who we are beyond our social roles and constructed identities. And it demands unwavering persistence to continue that arduous search nonetheless, even when the path is unclear. It requires the deep willingness to permanently abandon the mask, to shed the character, to dismantle the version of self we have so meticulously constructed purely to please others, or to survive their relentless expectations. Loneliness, therefore, is ultimately a profound test. It forces you to bravely confront and unequivocally answer a question that most people prefer to skillfully ignore, to push away into the background. Who are you when absolutely no one is watching? And even more pointedly, can you truly sustain your own company, or are you always perpetually fleeing from yourself through the constant presence of others? Kierkegaard warns us with chilling clarity. Fleeing from silence is fleeing from truth. And the inevitable, tragic consequence of this relentless flight is living a life utterly devoid of true roots, profoundly lacking in genuine meaning, and ultimately without authentic selfhood. A life where one is always outwardly surrounded, yet paradoxically never truly present within their own existence. But what if, instead of instinctively fleeing from the often uncomfortable embrace of loneliness, we learn to perceive it as a vital doorway? What if, instead of fiercely resisting the onset of silence, we learn to courageously inhabit it, to welcome it as a sacred space for self-discovery? Sure, I will provide the second block of the script, maintaining the established tone, length, and content requirements. This is precisely where another profound perspective enters our discussion. One that views solitude not as an alarm bell signaling anguish, but as a remarkable conquest of the spirit. And no philosopher articulated this more clearly, more unsparingly than Arthur Schopenhauer. While Kierkegaard compels us to look inward with a sense of urgent existential anguish, Schopenhauer invites us to remain in that interior space with profound dignity, piercing lucidity, and unshakable sense of self-possession. For him, the very act of being alone isn't an undesirable condition to be tolerated. It is, unequivocally, a powerful affirmation of inner greatness. In his characteristically sharp words and unyielding philosophy, Schopenhauer decisively breaks with the romanticized, often naive, view of life and society and bravely exposes a truth that many instinctively shy away from, preferring not to hear. The more profound, the more intellectually expansive an individual truly is, the more inevitably they will distance themselves from the pervasive superficiality of the masses. And this profound internal divergence, he asserts, leads them inexorably to Solitude. In his seminal work, Aphorisms for the Wisdom of Life. Schopenhauer unequivocally states that truly elevated minds seek solitude not as a desperate escape from the world, but as a genuine refuge from mediocrity. For him, continuous, indiscriminate interaction with others tends to be inherently exhausting, intellectually noisy, and emotionally numbing. The common individual, he observed, constantly distracts themselves, becomes agitated without external stimulation, and relies heavily on the perpetual presence of others because they harbor a deep-seated fear of the silent emptiness within. The wise person, on the other hand, discovers in silence not a void, but a boundless source of renewal. They are, in their deepest essence, self-sufficient, and not because they are cold or emotionally insensitive, but precisely because they have diligently learned to sustain themselves entirely with the immense richness they cultivate within, rather than frantically seeking validation or fleeting comfort from what they receive from the outside world. This profound type of inner presence, this robust self-containment, is not easily constructed with motivational slogans or fleeting promises of instant self-knowledge. It demands meticulous refinement. It necessitates sustained time, rigorous internal discipline, and a profound, often brutal honesty with oneself. Schopenhauer, with his unsparing realism, understood this implicitly, which is why he never offered superficial consolation. Instead, he offered unwavering confrontation. His philosophical thought is a direct, uncompromising blow against the pervasive, almost neurotic human need for constant social approval. He famously asserted that those who feel an incessant, overwhelming need to be surrounded by others at all times just to feel alive have not yet genuinely discovered their own profound depth. And this is precisely why solitude in his philosophy stands as a powerful sign of strength, not because it isolates an individual, but because it profoundly reveals them. It reveals who truly possesses the capacity to exist fully, to thrive authentically without depending on the fleeting applause of others, on conditioned affection, or on the pervasive noise that so effectively anesthetizes the raw truth of existence. The authentic solitary individual, for Schopenhauer, is one who has courageously become their own universe, their own source of meaning and fulfillment. They do not withdraw out of disdain for humanity, but out of a piercing awareness of pervasive scarcity of genuine depth in the external world. This powerful view, however, is not without its inherent sacrifices. To genuinely embrace and inhabit solitude requires the arduous task of enduring oneself. And for many, this is the single hardest task of all. Because when everything falls silent, when the external world ceases its demands, the internal monsters begin to scream with terrifying clarity. It is precisely in that raw, exposed moment that the true test of one's inner fortitude begins. Can you truly coexist with your own unfiltered thoughts, with your unbidden memories, your gnawing frustrations, your lurking emptiness? Or do you perpetually need the constant presence of others to skillfully avoid that terrifying confrontation? Schopenhauer shows us with unyielding clarity that those who master the profound art of solitude are those who have successfully transformed their own interior into a truly habitable place, a sacred sanctuary, a robust fortress, a fertile space for deep reflection, unassailable clarity, and immense personal power. And this transformative mastery is not acquired in the hurried pace of modern life, amidst the distractions of the crowd, or in the fleeting warmth of easy applause. It is painstakingly learned in profound silence within the crucible of discomfort, and through the patient, often agonizing, process of meticulously rebuilding oneself from within, piece by agonizing piece. Yet, there is a crucial point where the seemingly divergent philosophies of Kierkegaard and Schopenhauer powerfully converge. Both profound thinkers understood, with piercing clarity, that the experience of being alone can quickly become utterly unbearable, when there exists an internal void that has not yet been bravely faced, acknowledged, and addressed. Both knew that loneliness only truly transforms into liberating solitude when there is an authentic something within, capable of filling that inner space, of providing sustenance and meaning from its own rich wellspring. And this profound insight precisely leads us to the next inevitable, urgent question. Why do we feel such an intense, consuming emptiness when we are alone? What is fundamentally missing within us, or what is being profoundly avoided, that makes silence and self-presence hurt so profoundly? The inner emptiness is not simply the mere absence of something. It is more profoundly the constant, pervasive presence of a lack, a silent, gnawing hole that we desperately try to fill, no matter how relentlessly we strive. It appears most acutely in the long, desolate nights, in the quiet, reflective stillness of lonely Sundays, in the brief, uncomfortable pauses between one notification and the next digital distraction. And the most distressing part, the most agonizing truth, is that this particular emptiness cannot be truly resolved with more company, more money, or more frenetic distraction, because its origin is not external. It is unequivocally internal. The profound pain we feel when we are alone does not come merely from the social isolation itself, but from the brutal collapse of all the elaborate distractions we tirelessly employ to escape from ourselves. And when those carefully constructed distractions inevitably dissipate, what remains is a stark, often brutal realization. Perhaps I have lived this entire life profoundly disconnected from who I truly am. This emptiness is an essence, the Piercing echo of my own absence within myself. Psychology offers us invaluable tools to understand this phenomenon in profound depth. From the earliest moments of our lives, we are subtly yet powerfully conditioned to incessantly seek external validation. We are implicitly or explicitly told what constitutes success, what embodies beauty, what defines love, and what is universally accepted. We grow up striving tirelessly to fit into these predefined molds, meticulously adapting our behaviors, our authentic emotions, and even our deepest desires to conform to external expectations. And in this pervasive process of external adaptation, we often tragically lose intimate touch with our own intrinsic essence. We become masterful at performing, at embodying a social persona, but we systematically unlearn the vital skill of genuinely feeling, of authentically connecting with our own inner world. The devastating result of this lifelong external orientation is a profound internal dissonance. We meticulously create an identity that is projected outwards for the world to see, functional, adaptable, efficient, but one that is fundamentally inauthentic, disconnected from our core. When we are constantly surrounded by external stimuli, by the relentless demands of the world, this projected identity functions remarkably well, serving its purpose. But when the world suddenly falls silent, when the house becomes eerily empty, when the phone screen mercifully goes dark, that carefully constructed facade inevitably crumbles. And what powerfully emerges from behind its collapse is precisely what has been silenced, repressed or ignored for years. The wounded inner child, the forgotten creative desire, the fear never courageously faced, the unprocessed frustration that lingers. This is a true emptiness, the gaping gap between who we are and who we allow ourselves to be. And that is why it hurts so profoundly, because it carries the immense weight of all the profound renunciations we made out of a desperate fear of not being accepted, of not belonging. It charges us a very high, often unbearable, emotional bill for having so consistently ignored our own deepest truths and inner stirrings. Sure, I will provide the third block of the script, maintaining the established tone, length, and content requirements, but there's something even deeper at play. This pervasive emptiness can also be a profound symptom of a life lived entirely without inner direction. When we spend our existence merely reacting to the external world, relentlessly chasing after others' expectations, desperately seeking approval without our own clear, unwavering compass, the soul inevitably begins to empty itself. This occurs because the soul, in its deepest essence, yearns for meaning, for authentic presence, for a genuine sense of purpose. And when all of these fundamental needs are systematically replaced by empty, externally imposed goals by constant debilitating comparisons with others, and by a frantic, never-ending search for superficial approval, the result is tragically inevitable. We become profoundly lost to ourselves. The inner emptiness, then, is not something to be avoided at all costs, to be numbed or distracted away. It is profoundly a sign, a powerful symptom, a clear and urgent message from the unconscious, reverberating within our core, declaring, something is fundamentally wrong here. It forces you to stop, to listen intently, to bravely investigate, and, above all, to meticulously rebuild from within. And this crucial realization leads us directly to the next vital stage of the journey, the transformative process of converting the pain of loneliness into the profound richness of solitude. This is where emptiness ceases to be a desolate lack and becomes instead a fertile space, where being alone ceases to be a source of suffering and evolves into a conscious liberating choice. The transformation of loneliness into genuine solitude does not happen by magic. It requires deliberate work, courageous confrontation, and, above all, an unwavering willingness to look inward with brutal, uncompromising honesty. The fundamental distinction between loneliness and solitude lies precisely in how we relate to The experience of being alone. In loneliness, we are often passive victims of silence, tormented by an absence we cannot fill. In solitude, conversely, we evolve into masters of silence, actively choosing its presence and deriving profound sustenance from it. Loneliness is defined by absence. True solitude is characterized by presence, but a presence that arises uniquely from profound self-knowledge and hard-won emotional maturity. This transformative process begins, first and foremost, with radical acceptance. It means accepting, without judgment or self-punishment, that there is an internal void, that this deep pain undeniably exists, and that you have, at some point, profoundly lost touch with yourself. This acceptance is the indispensable first step, because as long as you vehemently resist what you truly feel, you will continue your relentless, futile attempts to numb your pain with empty distractions. And it is precisely within this destructive cycle that loneliness perpetuates and tragically feeds itself. Acceptance, therefore, is the vital zero point of reconstruction, the stable ground from which true healing can begin. After that initial acceptance comes the courageous dive. And this dive, make no mistake, is rarely pleasant. Being genuinely alone with oneself in deep, unyielding silence is an intense exercise in raw courage. It is akin to sitting patiently in the very center of your own intricate labyrinth and bravely listening to all the disconcerting noises of the mind, the haunting cries of the unhealed soul, the echoing whispers of forgotten traumas, and the unsettling truths we instinctively try to avoid. But it is also precisely in this profound dive that the encounter with genuine wholeness begins. Solitude is not merely the state of being physically alone. It is the active, deliberate process of inhabiting oneself with fullness, with a profound sense of completeness. It is the challenging yet incredibly rewarding journey of learning to sustain your own company with unwavering dignity and self-respect. A fundamental practice in this transformative process is self-listening, the conscious act of stopping, taking a deep breath, and observing what you truly feel without filtering, without justifying, without judgment. It involves writing, reflecting, and courageously questioning, what do I truly lack deep within? What am I perpetually expecting from others that I could, in fact, offer to myself? What is truly making me run so frantically, seek so desperately, fill my life so ceaselessly? These are uncomfortable questions. They can sting and unsettle, but they also possess the profound power to open doors, to disarm the entrenched mechanisms of escape, and to shed illuminating light into the internal chaos. True solitude also imperatively requires the meticulous creation of inner space. And this sacred space is painstakingly built, brick by brick, with consistent habits that powerfully favor presence, engaging in deep, reflective reading, cultivating moments of conscious, intentional silence, contemplating the majestic beauty of nature, practicing meditation, immersing oneself in art, engaging in profound study. These are all acts that connect you with what is eternal, with what is intrinsically meaningful, with what does not depend on anything external to possess profound significance. When you diligently cultivate this inner space, you begin to realize with growing clarity that being alone is not a punishment to be endured. It is, in fact, an immense privilege. It is within the fertile ground of solitude that the most powerful, transformative ideas are often conceived, where the most mature and impactful decisions are made, and where the most sincere, unwavering connections with what truly matters are forged. But a crucial caveat: solitude is not by any means synonymous with emotional isolation. It is not about shutting yourself off from the world in a defensive posture. Instead, it is about consciously choosing to no longer depend on the world for your very existence, for your sense of worth. It is the profound difference between choosing to be with others out of genuine desire and overflow, rather than out of desperate necessity or internal emptiness. It is the distinction between loving from a place of wholeness and abundance, rather than loving from a place of deep, unfulfilled need. Those who truly inhabit solitude do not flee from relationships. Paradoxically, they live them more authentically, more truthfully, precisely because they no longer desperately need those relationships to fill pervasive internal voids, transforming. Loneliness into genuine solitude is, therefore, an act of intimate revolution. It is about fundamentally changing the very quality of your presence in the world. It is about transforming the discomfort of silence into a true sense of home. It is about the liberating realization that you are not, in fact, alone. You are profoundly with yourself. And this connection, when meticulously cultivated and deeply honored, is more than enough. It is, in fact, everything. But to truly live this profound transformation, one must remain acutely aware of a subtle, yet immensely powerful enemy, the pervasive compulsion to flee from oneself, even when we genuinely try to walk this liberating path. We are constantly, almost relentlessly, seduced by the myriad distractions of modern life, by immediate, fleeting desires, by the insidious allure of modern vices, and by the captivating, yet ultimately empty, digital illusions. It is these powerful, external forces that tirelessly sabotage our inner reunion, relentlessly pushing us back into the familiar yet agonizing void of disconnection. And it is precisely about this insidious dynamic, the danger of relentlessly fleeing from oneself, and how this seemingly innocent escape is, in fact, the silent, often unrecognized origin of all profound emotional suffering that we will talk about next. You might be surrounded by people, your calendar crammed with 1,000 commitments, your social feed bustling with activity, yet still be in a state of deep, perpetual flight from yourself. In fact, this isn't just a possibility. It's often the most common portrait of modern life, a grand, pervasive spectacle of collective distraction. We are almost constantly escaping from ourselves. We do it through excessive work, through the relentless pressure for constant productivity, through the intricate web of emotional dependency, through compulsive consumption, through the endless scroll of social media, and through a myriad of lifestyle addictions cleverly disguised as healthy habits. Every new stimulus we seek is, in essence, a desperate attempt to silence that persistent inner voice that insists on asking, "Who are you?" when everything stops. And that truly is the question we fear the most. Because deep down, we instinctively know that what we might find, what might be revealed in that quiet introspection, may not live up to the polished image we've meticulously crafted for the world. This relentless escape comes at a steep, unyielding cost. It exacts a high price in the form of chronic anxiety, a pervasive, nameless anguish, and a constant, gnawing feeling that something fundamental is missing. Because when you distance yourself from your core being, everything you try to build, your relationships, your goals, your daily routines, loses its depth. Your connections become superficial, your ambitions feel hollow, and your days devolve into a mere sequence of automatic movements utterly devoid of soul. It's like residing in a beautifully decorated house that feels profoundly empty inside. The philosopher Kierkegaard called this phenomenon silent despair, the agonizing state in which an individual lives as if pretending that everything is perfectly fine, while deep within they sense that something essential, something vital, has been irretrievably lost. And the most unsettling part is that most people exist in this state without even consciously realizing it. This flight from oneself is so seamlessly integrated into the fabric of daily life that it has become entirely normalized. We've been conditioned to live disconnected from our own essence, as if this fragmentation were a natural state. But it is not. And as long as this profound disconnection persists, no external relationship will truly fulfill. No external success will genuinely satisfy, and no external achievement will truly heal. Because nothing outside of you can ever replace what is profoundly missing inside. True freedom begins the moment you stop running. It begins when you muster the courage to stay, to fully inhabit your own presence. It begins when you look at yourself, not with harsh judgment, but with genuine curiosity. Not with paralyzing fear, but with an unwavering willingness to understand who you are without masks, without filters, without lies. This is the pivotal turning point, the sacred moment you decide that you will no longer live as a fugitive from your own being, that you are willing to truly listen to what your moments of solitude are desperately trying to tell you, that you will face your inner emptiness with maturity and profound responsibility. It's the moment you decide you will no longer depend on external noise to feel truly alive. But this decision demands immense strength. Because when you finally stop fleeing, you begin to truly see. And what you see is often profoundly uncomfortable. It is at this critical juncture that you need structure, direction, and tangible tools. Facing yourself is merely the beginning. The next crucial step is to meticulously build a new, solid, deep, and utterly true relationship with yourself. Being alone doesn't have to be a crushing burden. It can be a conscious choice. It can be a profound return. It can be a vibrant new beginning. Loneliness hurts, yes, especially when it's filled with absence, frantic escape, and silent despair. But when it's cultivated with profound awareness, when it's approached as a sacred space, it transforms into solitude that rare. Precious state where the presence of oneself is utterly sufficient, inherently strong, and deeply nourishing. It is this state of cultivated solitude that you truly learn to think with piercing clarity, to feel with profound depth, and to live with unshakable authenticity. Kierkegaard illuminated for you that anguish is not a punishment, but a powerful call to truth. Schopenhauer taught you that the capacity to be alone can be a definitive sign of greatness, not a mark of deficiency. Psychology revealed that inner emptiness is not a flaw. It is a vital symptom pointing to an unaddressed need. And at every step, I've invited you to face all of this with unwavering courage without looking away, without hiding behind the endless parade of distractions. You can choose to continue losing yourself in the ruins of external noise, or you can choose decisively to build yourself in the profound silence of your own being. You can keep depending on others to feel whole, or you can make solitude your ultimate inner fortress. And I assure you, those who truly learn to be enough for themselves never again accept crumbs, not from the world, not from their relationships, and certainly not from themselves. Now, I want to hear from you. This journey into loneliness and solitude isn't just a philosophical exercise. It's a lived human experience. If this video has resonated with your soul, if it has illuminated new pathways within your own understanding, or if it simply made you feel seen in a world that often rushes past these profound personal truths, then you are a fellow explorer of depth. We invite you to join our growing community. By subscribing to this channel, you're not just clicking a button. You're stepping into a space where profound ideas are celebrated, complex truths are explored, and authentic self-discovery is the ultimate pursuit. Our mission to unravel the intricate mysteries of the human psyche and share wisdom that genuinely transforms lives is fueled by your engagement. So if you're ready to continue building your inner sanctuary and fostering connections that truly nourish your spirit, hit that subscribe button now. And don't forget to ring the notification bell so you won't miss any of our future explorations. We learn most powerfully through shared experience. If this video helped you understand your own need for quiet, or perhaps shed light on a friend, family member, or colleague who embodies this unique psychological architecture, like the brilliant programmer who finds solutions in deep work, or the insightful writer who crafts their best ideas in quiet reflection, we would be honored to hear your story. In the comments below, share how this video resonated with you. What was your biggest takeaway? Did it help you understand a specific relationship in a new light, or perhaps your own need for space? Tell us your unique journey, what you've learned about your own need for solitude, or how you've found your sanctuary. Your insights and experiences enrich this community and inspire countless others. We're here to listen, to learn, and to grow together. Thank you for being a part of this quest for deeper understanding